One of the analogies for AI has been more like electricity. I mean, it's everywhere and it drives everything. One of the cool things Microsoft has done with the Copilot agent or Copilot software that they have built in is you can just ask it a question like, "What are my what are my biggest expenses over the last 30 days?" And what normally you would do is go to a report. And so what I see all the time is like everyone has all these reports that answer different questions, but now you can just ask Copilot a question and it's going to find the answer for you. And if you have more questions, it'll keep answering it. So I see that as a game changer for reporting because a lot of times people leave the on-premise old systems for the new ones because of reporting, but they get so many hundreds of reports, it's hard to narrow it down. And I think the world is moving towards where you don't need to think about that. You have a question, you just ask the question.
Welcome to the Feria TechCast, where we bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today, we are joined by Jim Harris, a food and beverage software specialist with over 30 years of expertise spanning consumer packaged goods, beverage, alcohol, and enterprise resource planning solutions. As a senior level technology sales leader with Western Computer, Jim brings a unique perspective that bridges technology, sustainability, and evolving business trends. So, Jim, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Or thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
Great. So, let's start from your niche. You have a really fascinating niche. So how did you become a specialist in technology for the food and beverage industry?
Yeah, great questions. When I uh, when I got my MBA at Vanderbilt in Nashville, I met a classmate of mine who was in the space, and we decided this is 25 years ago to connect with some folks in the beverage alcohol space, specifically wine and spirits, and that was how I first got into it. I still do that, plus I do food, and really fascinated with people that have to make a product and sell to a distributor and then to a retailer or restaurant. That middle tier creates a lot of complexity. And in the United States, it's even more so because in alcohol beverage distribution, every state's a little different. There's different taxes, different shipping, different laws. So there's a lot of complexity around that. So where there's complexity, it's good to be in the software business.
Great. So for those who might not know, tell us, what does a typical ERP system implementation look like for a beverage company?
Yeah, great question. So it starts with finance and accounting because that's the backbone of any business. So making sure your numbers are right. So you have to get your items and your customers, your invoices, and your pricing into a system that when you get an order, you can convert that order into a delivery and then an invoice that gets paid. So that's the life cycle. It depends on the size of the company and also how many resources they want to put on it. But it's usually takes 5 or 6 months. It's a there's an analysis phase, the design phase, then you build the software out, you test it, and then you deploy it. That's usually the cycle people go through. But whatever they're on, they're going to most likely replace. So you really want to figure out how you can take multiple systems and combine it into one or bigger system that has everything in one place. So you're not looking in other, multiple places for the same information.
Awesome, awesome. So, tell us, how is artificial intelligence specifically transforming the day-to-day operations for the food and beverage companies that you have worked with?
I think it's still early stages for this. I think in marketing, people are using it for helping them write, helping them build information about their products, images of their products, those kind of things. There are some more advanced folks looking at artificial intelligence to figure out what to buy, when to buy, how much to keep on inventory. I think that's one of the better use cases because the less inventory you have while still meeting sales, the more cash you keep in the bank. Those are really good things for businesses. So I really think AI is still at the early stages, but it's starting to seep its way into all the different aspects of what food and beverage companies are going to do now and also in the future.
Awesome. So, what's the biggest challenge when bridging a legacy system with a modern cloud-based platform?
Yeah, I think it's really the change management on that for the employees to understand that the way they're doing it now is going to usually reduce steps. I mean, I was at on site with a bottling company. They make sodas and energy drinks this week, and they had a list of things they wanted, but like in the warehouse, about 40 or 50% of what they asked for, they don't need anymore because the new system's all one database instead of separate. So now if it's in one, they're not going to get an Excel spreadsheet that they have to type in, or they're not going to have to call the office to get something added. They can just update it and it'll automatically go to the right person. So there's a lot of advantages to the new systems that are more modern because they take away steps that people are doing manually right now.
Interesting. So, you help leaders tackle the fear around technological change. So, what's the most common fear you hear from these people, and how do you address it?
Yeah, great question. I find a lot of it is people really rely on paper for processes. So they give the driver a list of things to put into the truck, and then the paper gets signed, and someone in the office keeps track of the paper. I mean, again, I was at a location this week, and they would have three forms printed with a paper clip on it, and then someone had to handwrite it, and then someone had to type it. And I think what I see a lot is people that have those processes are really fearful that they're going to lose control in a more modern system, even though they're going to get more control, less errors, less paper. There's always that fear of losing that process that they can currently think through, and now it just is in online in a system, and it's hard for them to really figure that out. So how we solve that is just start slow, just get them comfortable with it, see how it works, see how it's going to save them time, but you just got to be really patient with people, at any age to get comfortable with new technology.
Great. So, tell us, Jim, how does cloud adoption actually change the game for companies that have been on the same outdated system for years?
I think the biggest one is the data is all in the same place. Like right now, a lot of people live in spreadsheets and they have other software products that they use that all stand alone. Having it all in one place makes the biggest difference. Also, you can just get on it from your phone, from your any kind of computer, any kind of tablet. So it's so much more freeing than having to log into a specific system. So from a security standpoint, it's better. From an accessibility standpoint, it's better. There's a lot more reporting. Yeah, just everything about the newer systems that versus the in the cloud are so much better than the on-premise systems.
Okay, so tell us, what's a sign for a business that its technology is limiting its growth, and there's need for an upgrade?
Yeah, I tell owners and senior executives just like go walk around and see, say when an order comes in, how many things have to happen for that order to actually get delivered. And when they really look at it and they say, well, why are we writing something down and then typing it in and then printing something out and then giving it to someone else and then it goes on a truck and then like when they really look at the number of steps they've created, um, and they see what that is doing to their team and how much effort and stress it puts on them, especially towards the end of the day, when everyone's trying to close out their business for the day for the next day. Um, that's what I really encourage. Just walk around, just look at how much paper, how many spreadsheets, how many emails have to go around. That if you get to a more modern system, most of that goes away. It's just much easier to figure out your business, and then your costs will go down, and also your ability to do more business will go up because your team will be more ready for new things.
Okay, that's amazing. So tell us, what are some small, simple steps that a company can actually take to stop patching an old system and commit to a full upgrade?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, there's so much software now that people have to use. You have your email and your phone and your text messages, and you might use like Teams or Zoom or Slack for messaging. There's just so many tools out there. I think, and then you add all the AI tools in there, ChatGPT and all the different tools that are out there. I think just taking a quick survey of what your team uses every day. Did they use Excel? Did they use Word? And just trying to figure out how you can consolidate some of those tools and how things are communicated. I think that's one of the reasons Teams and Slack have done so well is because it reduces the number of emails, which is always good for people. So just really looking at make a list of all the software you use and then figure out how many people use it on a regular basis in your organization.
Hmm, that's a really practical step. So tell us, Jim, how do you align complex technical solutions with the very practical daily needs of customers?
Um, Obviously experience. Our team is really experienced at doing implementation, so we know what questions to ask. We know what options are available, and we guide the clients towards the ones that are going to fit best for the business. The cool thing about a lot of these more modern systems, though, is because you're not doing custom coding. Like you're not hiring a developer to create code specific for a single thing, and then you have to maintain that over time. That's a really like a one way door. So you have to make a really hard decision there. With a lot of the things that you'll find in the cloud solutions are if you don't like it, you can just change. If you don't think it's working, it's easy to flip a switch and try it the other way. Or there's apps just like you have on your phone now. There's apps for these ERPs where you can just download an app and try it for free and see if it's going to work. So, like, I was on a call with my support team yesterday, and they were talking about um, this company has a lot of documents they bring in, and they wanted a better way to manage it. So, for a very small amount of money, they were able to download an app that goes right on top of Microsoft Business Central, which is the cloud ERP that they're on. And now they have like a more advanced way of doing it without having to code and have a developer getting in the middle. So, I think that's really the biggest thing is that the new modern systems generally don't need developers at the same way the older systems did.
Hmm. So have you seen any experience where automating a complex manual process, like, for example, compliance reporting, was a complete game changer for a client? If there is any, can you share with us?
I think any repetitive tax, like any repetitive tasks, like an alcohol beverage, if you sell into a state, you have to file a tax return every month for what you've sold that month. It's a simple form usually, but they all vary a little bit. But even if you haven't sold anything that month, you still have to file the return. And so getting the forms and then getting an automation so that at the first of the month, those automatically get sent. That's a perfect example of a complex task that may have to go to 20, 30 locations in a specific format that if you take the time up front to automate, you're going to stay in compliance with the government tax laws, but also it's going to save your team a lot of time and effort to keep that compliance moving forward so they can focus on other things that add value.
Great. So tell us from a technical perspective, what's the most critical step to ensure that a new software implementation is actually successful?
Bring in a team that's already done it before. You don't want to be the first one. Like in food and beverage, it's complicated. So you want to have people that have actually done food and beverage implementations before and that are meaningful. And because you don't want to pay a consultant or a software company to learn on the job. So it's way better to take more time to find the right partner and that they have the experience and that you feel comfortable with because you're going to be partners for 6, 9 months and beyond. So you really want to make sure it's a good fit for both parties and that you're going to get the value that you need.
Amazing. So, tell us, what's a surprising way that AI is being used in the food and beverage sector that most people like really would not expect?
One of the analogies for AI has been more like electricity. I mean, it's everywhere and it drives everything. One of the cool things Microsoft has done with the Copilot agent or Copilot software that they have built in is you can just ask it a question like, "What are my what are my biggest expenses over the last 30 days?" And what normally you would do is go to a report. And so what I see all the time is like everyone has all these reports that answer different questions. But now you can just ask Copilot a question and it's going to find the answer for you. And if you have more questions, it'll keep answering it. So I see that as a game changer for reporting because a lot of times people leave the on-premise old systems for the new ones because of reporting, but they get so many hundreds of reports, it's hard to narrow it down. And I think the world is moving towards where you don't need to think about that. You have a question, you just ask the question. And if you want it if you have to make a board presentation or investor presentation, it'll just create the slide for you with a graph and all that. So I think that is when people see that and they understand that, and also it's like something simple, like all the cloud software is web based. So you could have a tab open to customers, a separate tab on your browser open to items and pricing. So you're not actually switching between, you just have all these tabs open and you just flip between tabs to do your daily job. And that makes you way more efficient than some of the older school ways of doing it, where you have to leave one screen to get to another, then come back to it. And oftentimes that, takes extra time and a lot more training to get people up to speed on.
Interesting. So, I have one personal question for you. So, tell us, if you could go back to give your younger self one piece of advice about implementing technology, what would it be?
I think you can never underestimate the change that's required to get people to actually follow a system. Because if you give anybody the chance to cut corners, they're going to try over time. So building systems that are friendly but also rigid enough to keep people in a box, I think is really helpful. So you can't assume people are really following it. You have to test them on it, just like you would in school. And I think a lot of times businesses kind of assume people are just because you're paying them, they're just going to follow the rules. And my experience is people don't do that. So I wish I knew that a little bit more clearly years ago, but I definitely know it now.
Interesting, interesting. So, Jim, I have one more question for you. I normally like to ask this question to all the guests I interview here on this podcast. So tell us, what does innovation mean to you, and how does it relate to your work, your field, in the context of being in the context of enterprise software and digital transformation?
Um, there's a lot of great tools out there in the software space, ERP, lots of cloud software. This is really great. It's really about the people that implement it and help you learn how to use it the right way. I think a lot of innovation is, I'm doing a lot of bakeries right now. So you work with one bakery and then you go to second one, then they're going to do things a little differently. But if you can lean on what you learned in the first one, you're going to help the second one and so on. I think there's a lot of innovation just on how you configure a process to have less steps. Cause like one of the things I always think about is if there's 5 steps, can we make it four? If there's four, can we make it three? If there's two, can we make it one? Because less steps means uh, more innovation is required to get to a better solution.
Awesome, awesome. So, finally, tell us, where can listeners find you or go learn more about your work?
Yeah, so westerncomputer.com is our website. We have a food and beverage vertical listed there. So we'd love to have you come check us out and see if we could be a good fit for you. We also do, for free, we do a online survey of your requirements to give you a price range of what it would take, and then also a requirements list of the different types of software you might need so we can help you out making a good decision.
Amazing. So, Jim, it's been a really wonderful talk with you, and I'm really excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Ezekiel. Have a great day. I appreciate you.